Hello everyone, my name is Gursain Singh and here are my group members Jashanpreet Kaur, Mandeep Singh, Pradeep Kaur, Eknur Singh and Manroe Singh. Today we are going to present our presentation on Mcqueen vs Alberta 2001 case. Here are the content of this case. First of all, we are talking about its introduction, facts, then issues, holdings, rationale, and at the end we are talking about a Q&A section. Now I'm going to give a quick overview of this case. The Mcqueen vs Alberta 2001 case was about whether Alberta's ban on assisted suicide violated a person's rights. Gloria Mcqueen argued that the law took away her right to make decisions about her life. The Supreme Court of Canada decided that the provincial government had the right to stop assisted suicide as it was trying to protect vulnerable people and public health. The court said society's well being was more important than an individual choice in this case. This decision paved the way for 2015 Charter vs Canada case, which allowed medical assistance in dying. Now, Ignor will going to tell facts of this case.
Now I will take over and tell you about the facts. The factual background. Alleged wrongdoing by the states. Mcqueen alleged the Alberta government did something wrong and it hurt them. The act or omission was carried out by a government officer or agent. Mcqueen caused of action. Mcqueen started the government caused loss. Response. The provincial government of Alberta denied it did anything wrong. The Crown argued that Mcqueen has no cause for such action. Damage alleged by the Mcqueen. Mcqueen pleaded that they had suffered damages due to the action of the Crown. The statement of claim sought relief the wrong commitment. Cause of action. The question was whether the province of Alberta can be liable. The court required to determine whether the Mcqueen plead against the Crown amounted to an actionable wrong in law. So the procedural history, commencement of the action, Mcqueen sued the Alberta government. The Alberta Court of Queen Bench was assigned to the case. Defendant motion to dismiss. The Alberta government filed a motion to dismiss the claim. Defense argument was that Mcqueen claim did not meet the standards set in the law. Court preliminary assessment. The judge made an assessment whether Mcqueen had filed the claim appropriately. Court considered issue dealing with procedure and substance of the law. Argument presented: Mcqueen maintained the had a viable claim against the government. The defense submitted the action should be dismissed due to lack of cause of action. Judicial law issue. The court considered whether it has judicial on the Mcqueen action. They learned judge considered whether the law of Alberta allowed such an action against the Crown. Government liable in the tort. The first issue was the Crown was liable in tort. They have looked into the legislative and judicial authority. Legal standard wrongdoing claims against the government. The court considered whether the Mcqueen claims satisfied the legal standards the judgment set out was required for such claim succeeded. Now Pradeep will take over.
The central issue in this case revolves around whether the province of Alberta failed in its duty as an occupier, which allegedly led to the injuries suffered by Mcqueen at Sikkim Lake. This injury is on the legal responsibilities that the province had towards visitors and whether those responsibilities were met. The first issue is the legal framework. The Occupiers Liability Act in Alberta establishes the legal framework for the responsibilities of property owners or occupiers. Under this act, occupiers own a duty of care to ensure that visitors are kept reasonably safe while on their premises. This duty can vary based on specific circumstances such as the nature of the property and the type of visitor. For instance, the level of care expected may differ between a public recreational area and a private residence. Another issue is the duty of care. Was it established in this case or not? In this case, the province of Alberta was responsible for the ownership and management of Sikkim Lake, which means it had an obligation to implement reasonable safety measures for visitors. The key question here is whether this obligation extended specifically to a Mcqueen. If Mcqueen was considered a lawful visitor, then the province's duty of care would apply to him. The another issue is breach of duty. To determine if there was a breach of duty, several considerations must be evaluated. The first one is adequacy of safety measures. This includes assessing whether appropriate safety measures were in place, such as the presence of lifeguards, warning signs, barriers to protect visitors from hazards. Second one is understanding the risks. It's important to analyze the risks associated with the water conditions at Sikkim Lake, including depth variations and hidden dangers that could pose threats to visitors. Third one is previous incidents. Any prior incidents at Sikkim Lake that indicated a known hazard could demonstrate that the province was aware of risks and failed to address them adequately. The fourth issue in this case was causation. Did the breach lead to the injury? This aspect examines the connection between the province's actions or lack thereof and Mcqueen's injuries. The key question is whether Mcqueen injury would have occurred if not for the alleged breach of duty. It's essential to distinguish between direct causes and indirect causes. The another issue is the case law and precedents. Looking at similar occupiers liability cases within Alberta or Canada can provide context. Courts have interpreted duty and breach in comparable situations, which can help establish a precedent for how the law is applied in this case. Examining previous rulings can shed light on how courts assesses the adequacy of safety measures and the expectations placed on occupiers. Another issue is the legal implications. The significant findings of the case will have potential legal repercussions for the province. If it is determined that the province failed in its duty as an occupier, it could lead to liability for Mcqueen's injury. Additionally, this case may have wider implications for public spaces and government accountability regarding safety measures in recreational areas. Now, I will talk about possible defenses for the province. Several defenses may be considered. The first one is contributory negligence. This defense examines whether McQueen took the reasonable precautions to ensure his safety. If he failed to do so, it could mitigate the province's liability. The second one is voluntary ejection of risk. This involves determining if McQueen knowingly participated in an activity that carried inherent risks. If he was aware of the dangers and chose to proceed, this could limit the province's responsibility. The third one is sufficient warnings provided. If the province can demonstrate that adequate safety measures and warnings were in place to mitigate liability, it may strengthen its defense against claims of negligence. Now, my another group member, Jashan, will talk about this case. Thank you.
The holding is what the court ultimately decides to do about the key legal issues that the case presents. It establishes if Alberta committed any wrongdoing in its dealing with McQueen and if McQueen is entitled to compensation. How does the court decide the holding? Before making a ruling, the judge looks at some critical factors like the facts of the case, the other one legal issues and arguments from both sides, and past cases. The judge, based on these attributes, makes a final decision on Alberta legal liability for any harm McQueen suffered. Furthermore, possible outcomes in Mcqueen versus Alberta. The Mcqueen wins court rules in favor of Mcqueen. The court is satisfying that Alberta acted unfairly or illegally. Mcqueen is awarded damages such as lost wages or damages from court from ruling. The court finds that Alberta wrongfully dismissed Mcqueen and must pay damages. Impact. This will help empower employees' rights in Alberta. And the second one, Alberta Wales. The court rules for Alberta. The court ruled Alberta acted in accordance with the law and did nothing wrong. McQueen does not provide adequate evidence for his claims. Example of the ruling. No wrongdoing has been found by Alberta, and McQueen is not entitled to compensation. That would form the government's power in employment. And the third one is a mixed decision. Both sides win something. The law is not as ambivalent, but its violations were not injurious. Although Alberta erred several times, but they did not violate the law once the dust settled. McQueen might get partially payback or something along the lines of compensation. As an example of the ruling, the court finds that Alberta made some errors, but McQueen is entitled to limited compensation. And the another topic will discussed by my team member Mandeep Singh.
Rationale of this case: state immunity. One of the central issues was the doctrine of state immunity, which generally shields the government for being sued unless a statute specifically waives such as immunity. In Mcqueen case, the court considered whether the Alberta government could be compelled to face legal proceeding over the administrative action that affected Mcqueen. Access to justice and rule of law. The court highlighted that while the government may have immunity, this should not completely block a citizen's access to justice. It considered the balance between immunity and the fundamental rights of individuals to have legal remedies available to them when their rights are violated. Public interest and accountability. The judgment emphasized the importance of public accountability for government decisions. If the government were immune for judicial review or legal challenges, this could undermine the public ability to ensure that the government acts in accordance with the law. Human rights and procedural fairness. The court also considered whether MC Queen rights under Canadian law, particularly related to human rights and fairness, would be violated by not allowing him to challenge the decision. In the context of administrative decision, the court weighed the fairness of denying the opportunity to review or challenge government action. The role of statute in waiving immunity. The decision also underlined the significance of statute that explicitly waive statute immunity for certain types of claims. In case there is no such waiver, individuals might find it difficult to hold the statute accountable for actions that harm them. Now the next part Q&A will be described by my partner Manroj.
What was the Mcqueen versus Alberta 2001 case about? The case involved a dispute between Mcqueen and the province of Alberta regarding land right and compensation. As we know that there is a lot of queries about the lands which the different type of state hold. So this case just have information about the rights and compensation of those type of land. Just talk about the second question. Who were the main parties involved in the case? The plaintiff was Mcqueen and the defendant was the government of Alberta. The government of Alberta just having a different type of issues which is just regarding to the land of the Mcqueen which they want to be take over by them. Third one question is what legal issues were at the center of the case? The case focused on property right, expropriation law, and the duty of the government to provide fair compensation. As we know that if we are just talking about a one case and we are just having a one side of a conversation on a single topic, so this is not a fair. So government have to talk about the both of the land dispute and just having a midway as both for both of them. The fourth one question is what was McQueen argument in the case? McQueen argued the Alberta government had unfairly taken or restricted the use of property without providing proper compensation. The fifth one question is what was Alberta's defense in case? The Alberta government contended that its actions were within legal boundaries and didn't want additional compensation. What was the court ruling in the case? The court ruled in the favor of the parties like Alberta and McQueen, stating that fair compensation was regarding for government exploration, where they are giving the different type of views on the both of the parties what they think. Another one's question, seventh one is what percent did McQueen versus Alberta 2001 set? The case clarified the application of exploitation law in Alberta and the standard for compensation when government action impact private land or landowners. The eighth one question is how did this case affect future expropriation cases in Alberta? It reinforced the principle that property owner must be fairly compensated when their rights are infringed by government action, or they are fairly compensation when government action infringes on their rights. The last one is the question 9. What lesson can be learned from this case? Government must ensure transparency and fairness in exploitation, and property owner should be aware of their legal rights.
So, this is our presentation. Thank you and have a nice day.